So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not quite out of the dark yet. There are a few things that I would like to discuss before we move on to a different subject. Many, if not most, of my presentations are connected in some way. This country, the US, has a pretty extensive history. However, much of its ancient history was lost or hidden. Now, what I am going to discuss is not exclusive to the US. Every country to some degree is plagued with what we are going to get into, and that is paranormal activity. And I just want to use the US as an example. Think about this. If the veil that separates us from the spirit realm was lifted and you could actually see every being that walks among us, I'm pretty certain you would find that there is no escaping their presence. They are everywhere. This country, America, has a deep, extensive history of witchcraft, devil worship, cult magic, you name it. And you will find paranormal activity high in certain states, more than others. And that is due to the inhabitants of that land. Sumer or Babylon, Egypt, Greece, India, and ancient America are on my top 5 places for having a history of deep-rooted occult magic rituals and polytheistic worship, which means that these are also the most haunted places as well. I recently watched a documentary called The Bray Road Beast, and this is about the sightings over the years of what people believe to be a werewolf in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, as it is a very haunted state in the US. There are ruins here in the US that are just as old, if not older, than what you find in Iraq or Egypt. So with that said, let's take a closer look at the evil that lurks in America, another land of gods and monsters. Many of you may at some point in hearing about hauntings or even experiencing these things yourself probably wonder how or why. But most people don't ask when. And often at times it is not the person that is being haunted, it is the place. So we are going to discuss the dynamics of what is going on. In order to fully understand this, we have to go back and start with ancient civilizations, particularly those in the Americas. Has anyone ever heard the story of Kate Blood? I know. What kind of a last name is that? How does that even become someone's name? Well, the story is, before Kate died, there is a story that she murdered her husband and 3 children. And when she was buried down by the river, isolated from the other graves of the Appleton Riverside Cemetery in Wisconsin. People would report seeing dark shadow beings and orbs. Whoever went to visit her grave at night, they would report seeing blood oozing from her headstone. But here is the thing. Kate Blood never killed her husband. In fact, he outlived her. And the 3 little headstones close to hers was that of Kate, her husband, and his second wife. And this is a perfect example of what I'm going to discuss, and that is desire. You see, most people do not want to see ghosts. They do not want to see demons. They do not even want to see aliens or UFOs for the most part. But these dark entities, these beings, roam the earth, just ready to show up anywhere people desire to see them. You don't really need a ritual to summon these things, folks. You only need the desire. Think about paranormal investigators. They are always going out in hopes to capture something on film or audio. And we all know the stories they have to tell. You know, I want to point something out real quick. And most people don't know this. In today's world, 99.9% of the time that someone is pronounced dead, they are gone. They are in fact dead. But from around the early 1900s going back, that wasn't always the case. In fact, many people back then that were pronounced dead were not really dead. And so they would end up getting buried alive. People in comas are a great example of that. Can you imagine waking up in a coffin buried underground? Actually, some people have woken up during their own funeral. Think about that for a moment. What is crazy is, this was so commonplace, they used to rig up a cemetery bell above your grave, with a rope tied to it that would extend into your coffin. So in case you did wake up while buried, you could just keep ringing that bell until someone dug you up. I know, scary, right? Talk about being saved by the bell. Go look into the author Chad Lewis. He will expand more on what I have just stated. Also, Lewis brings up a very important point. Many of the hauntings that occur are the result of a dare. Like looking into a mirror and saying the name of a ghost 3 times, or the 3 a.m. challenge, or the graveyard challenge, or the use of Ouija boards are usually the result of a dare. These dares are rooted in the desire for people to have some sort of experience, or they are so skeptical that they just go along with the dare, not believing in it. And even then, things do happen. Sometimes these things occur without anyone having any prior knowledge of an urban legend or haunted place, and they unwittingly find themselves in the middle of paranormal activity. The thing about Wisconsin is, they've got it all, baby. Ghosts, demons, UFOs, orbs of light, Bigfoot. They have werewolves, hellhounds, Slender Man. Remember the story about the 2 12-year-old girls who led another girl into the woods and stabbed her about 19 times because of Slender Man? Yeah, that was in Wisconsin. She survived, by the way. Why these girls were even allowed to go out alone, I'll never understand parents. They even have forest elves in Wisconsin. They have haunted houses, haunted hotels, one of which Jeffrey Dahmer stayed in. They have a haunted airplane from the 1940s, haunted cemeteries, haunted bridges, haunted lakes and rivers. Where does all this come from? Well, we're about to get into that. This all starts with the Native Americans. Just like the ancient Egyptians, who I believe their culture originates, every tribe in Wisconsin, the Dakota, the Potawatomi, the Ho-Chunk, all of them, were deep into magic rituals. Almost everything they did was ritual. They were polytheistic worshippers. They were very much into spirits. There is even evidence of human sacrifice in Wisconsin. When your whole way of life is magic, gods, and monsters, guess what? Some of those people are going to want more power, because that is why they worship these beings, for power, and power over their enemies or other tribes. When you have these type of occult magic rituals going on all the time, all over the state, for years and years and years, this is why the state is known for the modern day occult and satanic worship. And I'm actually being nice here. You do not want to know what some of these old tribes were into. And they pretty much mirror what some of the ancient tribes in Africa were doing. Animal worship, fire dances, shaman or medicine men, some call them, rites of passage. The Europeans came over and said, "Oh, hell nah, we worship Osiris," or Nimrod, whatever you want to call him. Folks, the land has been haunted forever. That's why people see werewolves over there and in other states, because those are the same demons Native American tribes were messing with. I don't understand why these things are mysterious. We don't really know what these things people are seeing are. You can't explain it. Yes, you can. I just did. Anybody ever heard of Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield? This guy is single-handedly responsible for movies like The Silence of the Lambs, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They got those ideas from this guy in Plainfield, Wisconsin. I can't talk about what he did here, so if you want to know, just Google it. There is so much dark history in that state, as is the case in many other states because of occultists, ancient and modern. You know how people worship Bigfoot by creating these attractions and museums and tours and merchandise in some of these towns? Well, in Wisconsin, they do have Bigfoot, but they have what is called the hodog, a horned monster. And people over there wonder why every other building is haunted. It is unbelievable how many haunted attractions they have in that state. I don't even want to cross the state line, but it's not the only state. Wisconsin doesn't even make the top 10 of the most haunted states. The states around it, like Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, are more haunted than Wisconsin. New York, Nevada, California, and Texas are extremely haunted states. They're in the top 5. Spirit and paranormal activity is ramping up. And this will help you better understand why, because these things never left. You see, there is going to come a day very soon, mind you, where these beings are no longer going to hide in the shadows. They are going to become more and more bold, and spiritual attacks will increase. For those of you who are able, do some digging into this topic, some side research, and you may be shocked at what you find about your own state. I'm going to have to cut this one short. I'm getting a little ill just talking about this stuff. So I'm going to leave it there. For what it's worth, I do hope some of what I have said will help those who need it. I will have other discussions about similar topics. But until then, or until next time, folks, as I always say, please stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.